Hello again, and welcome to the second installment of our Black History Month series. My name is Tajiri, and I'm one half of Tesito. Tesito is a home for authentic West African goods, and we get our home decor from the Gambia, we get our statement jewelry from Mali, we get our fine jewelry from Senegal, and we get our clothing and other accessories from different parts of the Gambia and Nigeria. So, without further ado, let's get into the Malian Empire. I'm so excited to talk about this empire. When we think about great empires, Mali should definitely immediately hop into our brains. I'm going to tell you a little story about how there was a father. He had an unborn child. He went to a few fortune tellers and they said that his son would be king. As the son was born and time progressed, they noticed that he couldn't walk. His son was paraplegic. The father got so mad that he had banished the son from their kingdom where they lived. The son didn't really know what to do. He found a way to transport himself to a city of Kangaba, and it was on his way towards Kangaba that he learned how to walk miraculously, just like that. When he finally got to Kangaba, they opened up to him and they took him in as one of their own. As time passed, he grew up, he got stronger, he began to train with the warriors of Kangaba. He got stronger and stronger and stronger until he became the greatest warrior of Kangaba. You know, people would come from different neighboring territories try to test him out, but he still stood. As it turned out, the people of Kangaba decided to make this once paraplegic child their king. His name was Sundiata Keita, and this is the story of the real Lion King. And I'm not even gassing when I say that he was the Lion King. Like, Sundiata Keita literally means Lion Prince. I'm sure that the father eventually kicked himself in the foot because Sundiata Keita went to found and create the Malian Empire. He became the first Mansa. Mansa means king. Time was moving closer and closer to coronation. There were neighboring threats about a terrorizing group making its way across the Sahara Desert. This pretty much pushed a lot of the neighboring territories to come underneath Sundiata Keita. That's how they formed the Malian Empire, and I find that to be beautiful because that's a story about people really trying to band together and protect themselves. Sundiata Keita, or Mansa Keita, ruled with so much humility. Like, he did not want this throne or this new power to get to his head. So on the day of his coronation, he set up a whole bunch of rules and regulations to make sure that there were checks and balances in the Malian Empire. First thing he did was ensure that the smaller kings that were coming together to form the Malian Empire didn't lose their power. He was at the top, and then he had his smaller kings who were nobles of their territories, and that's how they worked together to create a democratic society. The next thing that he did was rename Kangaba as the capital city. He had put Kangaba on the banks of the Niger River, mainly because that's the water supply. Water and life go hand in hand, so the easier it is for you to access water, the easier it is for you to prosper. On top of that, this river was also used as a trading ground, so it was very important that the Niger River be the center of the Malian Empire. Another thing that happened when he first came into power was take control of the gold. Remember how I said Ghana got control of the gold control? Same gold control that I was talking about regarding Ouagadougou or the Ghanaian Empire in the previous video. Definitely check that out if you haven't watched it. And then the last thing that happened was he promoted agriculture by taking warriors and turning them into farmers. And I really want to highlight, underline, and italicize this portion of the story because when we think about where we come from, a lot of the times people want to say, we come from kings, we come from wars, we come from da-da-da-da. And this is all true. Like, we do come from societies where there were emperors, there were kings, and there were great warriors, but majority of the people, I can't stress this enough, were into agriculture because we understood and still do today the importance of tending to the land because all we have is this planet, and so we need to make sure we are doing what we can to take care of her and to make sure she is fertile and she is producing, naturally. I really do appreciate Mansa Musa for saying, all of you guys don't need to be fighting right now. Like, you should probably pick up this little pitchfork right here and start tilling and towing the land. Mansa Musa went on to rule for another 20 years, and it was very beautiful. He was succeeded by his son, Abu Bakr II, and unfortunately, Mr. Bakr never got a chance to actually enjoy the throne. He was an explorer, and so he wanted to test out and understand the limits of the Atlantic Ocean. And so he set sail with his troops, and they never returned. Abu was never able to come back and, enjoy his throne, unfortunately, because he never returned. I talked more about what happened to him in the last video. By law, his nephew was to succeed after Abu, and that is who we know as Mansa Musa. We all have heard Mansa Musa's name thrown around at least once or twice, even if you haven't learned much about him. He promoted the arts, he promoted agriculture, he was all about making sure that the empire was running at a high volume. And so like everything that his great uncle Sundiata Keita had set up, he made sure to take it to the next level. Another beautiful thing about Mansa Musa was that he cared deeply about religious tolerance and education, so much so that he wasn't big on like converting everyone to Islam or trying to get people to be in Christianity. He just let people be. And then he was also able to found and create the first university, the University of Sankora. And this university is still running today, which makes it the oldest continuously running institution of higher education. So another great world event that had happened during Mansa Musa's reign was his pilgrimage to Mecca. So he had brought 60,000 people with him, and then he had brought multiple camels with 300 pounds of gold, and they set off into the world. And during this trip, when he took a pit stop in Cairo in Egypt, he had circulated so much gold in that region that he caused a 12-year gold recession. Literally, so much gold was put into that one city that the value of gold dropped because of how accessible it was, literally causing an inflation of gold. And then for 12 years, gold stayed in such a low value position in that area, like for 12 years. Like, that's mad crazy to think about. Mansa Musa went on to have a beautiful and blossoming 25-year reign. I mean, the Malian Empire was in really good hands during his time. Unfortunately, after he had passed, the rulers that inherited the thrones, they weren't as competent, definitely were only able to keep the empire operating at its barest minimum. And then eventually, they weren't able to ward off invasions from a new power that was slowly but surely gaining its traction, the Songhai Empire. The Songhai people had their help from the Portuguese. From there, they just became too powerful for the declining Malian Empire to ward off. The Malian Empire crumbles, and then the Songhai Empire began to blossom and become the new central power, and they expanded their territory. And then you also have the Wolof Empire. They come through and they do their thing. And so yeah, that's pretty much the story of the Malian Empire. I truly hope you enjoyed this second installation. Next week, we are traveling into what was traded during these times. Like, I've mentioned a few things here and there, but I've noticed from my research that there are a few common themes. Next week, we dive into the most popular things that were traded during these times. I mean, I've mentioned a few things here and there, but I noticed there are some trends, and I have a feeling I know why those trends were. So I just wanted to go ahead and offer it up. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week, and I definitely look forward to seeing you again soon. Please be sure to follow us on all of our social media channels at Shop Tesito. And make sure you check out our website, tesitoconnection.com. We just got some really great things in store, and I mean, it's authentic. Like, that's all we know. So you might as well just come to us for the source. All right, talk to you soon. Peace.